I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, when I saw that they were making another Omen movie, I did roll my eyes. And when I saw it was a prequel, I was very confused because the first one is an origin story, basically for Damien. And I was like, what story is there here to tell? And then when I realized after the trailer had dropped that it was going to be about Damien's mother, I was like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense. And I actually am now interested. And much like everyone else, I was kind of blown away by how good the trailer looked. Because honestly, I was expecting this to turn out like something along the lines of Pet Sematary Bloodlines. You know, just some kind of prequel cash grab, hire a random adequate-ish director, put out some kind of product, drop it on Paramount Plus or whatever, and be done with it. And so when we saw the trailer, I was like, oh, there's something here. So we got to see the first Omen tonight, and let's talk about it. So this stars Nell Tiger Free, who we know from the TV show Servant, as well as Ralph Ineson, who we know from The Witch. And this follows, I mean, as far as the story goes, all you really need to know is that this is a prequel to The Omen, and it chronicles the birth of Damien. I had heard from friends of mine who got to see this early that they were in love with it. I will say this, the first thing I want to say for my opinion on this is that I do think there is an effect happening. And that effect is that when people think a movie's going to be terrible and it's good, they do tend to like it more than I think they would have had they expected it to be better, right? If they went into this thinking it was going to be amazing, I don't think they'd like it as much as they are. So I do think that there is a little bit of that happening because everybody thought this movie was going to be trash when it was first announced. And because it is a good movie, I think people are like, oh my God, it's amazing. And I don't think it's amazing, but I do think it's very good. I didn't love it, but I think that there's a lot good to say about it.
I don't think I had the same expectations that maybe you did, that it was going to be a bad film based on just the announcement. I didn't really have any expectations for it, so I don't think that that's affecting me the way that you're describing it, because I thought this was a really good film.
Yeah.
I really, really loved it. I would say that I feel the same way about Immaculate. For me, they're both kind of on the same level. I loved Immaculate, and I also loved this one. But I do think that, as we had talked about when we left the theater, they're very similar films.
Very.
Which is part of maybe why I liked this one so much. I thought it was great. I think that the performance of Nell, I loved her in Servant. I think she's a really talented actor.
Yeah.
And I love seeing her in this larger role. I think she really did a fantastic job and carried the film. She has such a way with these like really subtle expressions that convey so much emotion, and great casting for her. The big thing for me was actually the soundtrack, the score for this. I think that the music was incredible. I loved the music. It was scary and religious, and just it fit perfectly. I think it's really iconic, and it, at least as of right now, I could see it being my favorite score of the year. There's like a combination of music and like voices and other weird sounds that are mixed in that just, I think it worked so perfectly. And I also really love like the cinematography. I think that there's some really cool imagery here. I would say I like the imagery, like the horror imagery in this better than Immaculate. I think that this goes for a little bit more of a horror vibe. I think it really harkens back to the 70s Satanic Panic. It fits right in with that time frame. I'm a big fan of that. I always think that that's cool.
This was directed by the director of Channel Zero Season 3 Butcher's Block, which is a show Kaylee and I love, and it's great to see this director getting a big featured film like this. So kudos to them on that. And I think they did a great job, especially going up against the idea that was being thrown around here. This definitely could have become a super forgettable entry in 2024. Just another cash grab, sequel, prequel to a major franchise that they just throw into theaters, don't know exactly what to do with it. And I think that they actually had a vision and a plan here, and it all worked out pretty well. I think it fits along with the Omens pretty well. And as far as if this lines up with the Omen continuity-wise, I'd say it does a pretty good job with that. I think they did a pretty damn good job here addressing everything, and I think most people will be pleased. You know, you can't please everybody, but as far as continuity goes, I think it works. The performance here, that's kind of what makes Immaculate and First Omen work. Sydney Sweeney and Nell Tiger-Frey. They both carry these films, and they're both about motherhood, and we have endings that complement each other well in different ways. And no spoilers on that, but I found these to be really interesting companion pieces to one another. Mm-hmm. And for them to come out so close together, it is ironic how similar they are.
This one, like Immaculate, also deals with some body horror, particularly around pregnancy, which also is something that always lands really well for me, because I find normal pregnancy scary. So then when it's like supernatural and evil, it's even more terrifying.
I guess the last thing I'll say on this, and you could consider this a mild spoiler, maybe. So if you don't want to hear anything at all, definitely shut it off here. I don't think this is a spoiler, but, you know, at your own peril. This does kind of leave itself off for a potential sequel, which would also kind of be a prequel. As well, or a companion piece to the original Omen. That's why I always hate these titles of like the first Purge. Which Purge? The first Purge, like the first Purge or the first Purge? Wait, what? The original Omen or the original Purge is what we'll have to say now. I found that to be interesting. The ending definitely leaves off in a place that I was not expecting at all. And it made me go, okay, where are we going? Is this meant to be something more? I don't know. Would I watch another? Yes, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I kind of hope it happens, and to see where we go from there. This is way better than I would have ever imagined it to be, and has any right being.
I'll say, I did love this film, but I agree with you. It's not like a new classic for me or anything, right. But I had such a good time watching it. Like this and Immaculate, like when you go to the theater and you just have a really good like horror movie experience, and it's satisfying, and there's cool stuff happening, and the story's good, and all of that. Like it's really nice to get those films, because the other half of the time you're getting things like Imaginary.
There is some really cool imagery here and there. And that is one thing I definitely wish we would have gotten more of.
Yeah.
Is this really off-putting, haunting imagery.
Scary. There's really scary moments.
With that 2-hour runtime, I would have liked to see a little more horror imagery injected into this film, and a little bit more playing around with someone's mental state and psychological health in this. And I really wish they would have delved deeper into the psyche and the breakdown of that. But make no mistake about it, there's plenty of horror in this. This is absolutely a horror film through and through. But just with a 2-hour runtime, I think we could have packed in some more creepiness and haunting imagery. That said, I do also want to point out the fact that this does not feature a ton of jump scares. This definitely builds more atmosphere and creep factor, which I absolutely respect and am a fan of.
Yes.
Now, will that work for the modern, younger audience?
It's definitely a recommendation to go see.
Oh, absolutely.
If you can, in theaters.
Yeah. And follow it up with the first Omen, the original Omen.
Omen?
Omen 676. All right, guys. Let us know if you go see it, and we'll see you in the comments.
Yeah.